Hello and welcome in. It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your programming. Become a diehard. Go PHNX.com. Pick up a free hat and or shirt. Speaking of shirts, we got some shirts coming your way. I'm Johnny Venerable, my co-host, Brack, Damon, Dawg, behind the mic. We thought we would use today, Bo, on really the eve of rookie minicamp, the next 2 days and beyond, to talk about the foundation of this team and how they have basically, the Arizona Cardinals, rejoined competency based on, a bunch of moves, but one singular move, Brock, comes to mind.
Absolutely. Kind of the thing that kicked things off, jump-started this Arizona Cardinals rebuild, and it started over a year ago today. So we've got a big group in the chat already. Sorry we were late. Tommy, Richard, what's up, Joey? Jess in the chat. Merv is here as well. Busting a move. Amadeus, K2. Everybody having a great time. I think they're putting in their favorite snacks in the chat, which we love that. We love that. Any I saw the PHNX Sun Devils did an egregious sweet treats draft.
Oh my God, how bad was it?
Oh my God, it was Anthony Totri. I don't know what to say. I can't even look at him any longer. Like,
you say draft in PHNX Sun Devils, I'm out. I can't even take it. I've seen so many egregious images on my Twitter timeline of their drafts, but what did Totri draft? Did he like Almond Joy first overall?
That probably would have been an improvement.
I think that probably would have been better.
Yeah, he took honey buns as his first pick as a sweet treat.
Second overall.
I think they just give those away at this point. I don't even think you have to purchase those. We'll save those. We'll do a draft like that. We'll save it for the dead of June. But I'll tell you right now, my first pick isn't going to be anything Hostess related, respectfully to them. Good Lord. Cardi D, my guy, always at the top of the show with a super chat, $2. I can't wait, Jobo. I need my PHNX fix. Hashtag Bird Gang. We appreciate you, Cardi D, immense friend of the program. Can't wait to see you at one of our future events, my guy. How about this? Ryan, $2. Let's just pose this question off the top before we dig in to some rookies, Bo. Ryan asking, who's one offense and defense replaced by a rookie at season's end? What a great question.
I mean, I immediately think of the left guard position in Isaiah Adams. I think that he's a prime candidate to maybe even outright win that job out of the preseason, out of training camp. I think Isaiah Adams has the athleticism, the size that you want at the left guard spot. It's probably a better fit for him to play inside than where he finished his Illinois career at tackle. So I'd say that on the offensive side. Johnny, if you want to take the defensive side.
Man, I will do some low-hanging fruit. Here's what I will say. Xavier Weaver from Texas, the pass rusher they took on day 3 of the draft.
Oh, Xavier Thomas.
Excuse me. I think he is going to vie for at least playing time. And like, what happens if it's December and the Zaven Collins experiment, which I'm fired up for, kind of ends on and he's a free agent. Guess who they're going to play at the end of the year? They're going to play the young guy. So Darius Robinson's going to start this year. Max Melton's going to start off the gate. But let's say Xavier Thomas out of Texas comes in and performs well enough to have a starting spot.
Clemson. He's one of your beloved.
I'm thinking burnt orange here.
Defenders.
Yeah. I think he starts by early December. At least gets a couple games under his belt.
Yeah. I think Rabbit. How about Dadrian Taylor Demerson?
Over Buddha?
No, not over Buddha, but I think he could see some snaps, some definite snaps in the defensive secondary. I mean, when we're talking rookies, like right out of gates, like Darius Robinson, I think he's an immediate starter. I think
Max Melton, by the way,
immediate starter. Yeah, so they're going to cut their teeth early on, starting on this defense and playing a heavy amount of snaps. So it's a great question. I love it. I love it right out of the gates.
Some people asking, like, what about James Conner and what's going on with Trey Benson? Like, I don't wish that for James Conner. James Conner was like maybe the best player on the team last year. So I think James Conner deserves the benefit of the doubt until he's just not healthy. I don't think he's ever just going to be unseated based on talent. Whereas I think there are guys, as you mentioned, Bo, left guard. I mean, like, does Higgy Bear get immediately unseated by Tip Raymond? Higgy Bear looks good right now from all accounts during team activities, and I think looked good to end last year. The defensive side of the ball, it's a little easier because the offense, there's not as much rotational depth. Like the offensive line is the offensive line. Like the kid out of Illinois, Isaiah Adams, he takes the left guard spot. You hope he never gives it back. Whereas you could have a rotational corner, you could have a rotational defensive end pass rusher, and that's a good problem to have. But yeah, Rabbit to me, like, can he be the third safety, elevating and trending upward so that maybe he makes the Budda Baker decision a little bit tougher in the offseason? That's certainly something to watch. Let's say he has, 2 to 3 interceptions over the course of the second half of the year. Like it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. But somebody from that defensive back room needs to emerge outside of Max Melton, who we are going to talk about right now. A lot of people think he's a player to watch for the Arizona Cardinals this year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I saw more from our guy Baldy was talking about Max Melton, and he had an NFL comp that I think should have Arizona Cardinals fans excited. But when you're talking about Elijah Jones, who they got at the end of the third round, Elijah Jones was the final piece really on the Cardinals side of things, Johnny, that of that draft day trade for the third overall selection.
Yeah.
That when we talk about this Arizona Cardinals team and how they kickstarted this rebuild and how we are just a year later, just over a year later, and they're staring down return to relevancy. Now I know Peter Schrager, he does a nice little like mock schedule or whatever. He mocked out that the Cardinals are going to be with the Carolina Panthers' least amount of primetime games, which is a little concerning, but still you'd like to have them fly under the radar before have too heavy of expectations. But the main point is this Cards team is poised to surprise a lot of people who haven't paying as much attention as our viewers have. And we point back to this draft day trade. And Damon, I think we're ready for it. How about the third overall selection, the main asset that Monti Ossenfort kind of inherited from
Look
the
at all
previous
this going
regime.
on, by the way.
This is insane.
Yeah.
This is insanity. So when it all came down after you put the finishing touches on it, and I think it was the Texans doing that with their third round pick this year. The Arizona Cardinals, at the end of the day, they traded out third overall and ended up with Paris Johnson Jr., BJ Ojulari, Garrett Williams, who's, you could say he's a starting player as well with those first two. And also you add Darius Robinson this year, who's going to start on the defensive line, and then Elijah Jones and Owen Papo. That's the case to be made against all those saying, why did we pass on Will Anderson Jr.? Because you were able to start to fill out a roster. And, at the end of the day, like I look at a premium position at tackle, I look at a premium position at edge in BJ Ojulari, and I see a guy that's going to be playing big time snaps on this defense, potential game wrecker, in Darius Robinson.
Well, you got Paris and Darius Robinson for the price alone is worth it, in my opinion. And then you have the rest of that. You have two premium positions, like premium positions up front on the line of scrimmage. Like, what if Darius Robinson, as just a defensive lineman, becomes 80% of Will Anderson Jr.? I mean, and then Paris, Paris has a trajectory now, folks, of a Pro Bowl left tackle, Pro Bowl right tackle, whichever he plays, right? I think he's going to stay at right tackle. To me, it's a no-brainer with those two picks alone because I'm so bullish on those two players. And then you've got a bunch of guys that we're high on that are, some of them are lottery tickets, but like BJ Ojulari, what if he hits 8 to 12 sacks this year? Garrett Williams, becomes just a really good slot corner. Elijah Jones, top 100 pick. Can he surprise people? Papo's probably the only true, okay, what's his role going to be this year? Is he just a special teamer? Is he going to be on his contract for 4 years? But we're going to look back. If this Cardinal team makes the postseason this year, which I think a lot of people are skeptical, I think they can get there. It's going to be on the backbone of Paris, Ojulari, Garrett Williams, and Darius Robinson. You will look up, if the Cardinals are playing the first weekend in January as the 6th or the 7th seed in the NFC, all 4 of those players will have played a pivotal role. Thus, the trade, which is already a win, will be a slam dunk. I don't care what you say. Then the trade is it's open and shut.
Yeah, and I see this in the chat right now, and I think people I agree with it that this is kind of across the board victories, dubs for most of these franchises. Like the Texans, they felt like they were at the next step. Like they just landed their franchise quarterback. I don't think anybody anticipated the rise of CJ Stroud that we eventually saw, but they get CJ Stroud and then they come back up and they get Will Anderson Jr., 2 pillars on both sides of the football. We don't really care about this safety, Kalen Bullock. but they get Will Anderson Jr., the offense or the defensive rookie of the year. You look at what the Lions did. They're a lot further down the line. They were a team that was just on the outside looking in the postseason, and they add, a stud running back and then one of the best young tight ends in the game in Sam Laporta. Pretty good job there. And then I don't, still like this rudderless Titans team is kind of funny to me, but they still get Will Levis. He's a wild card, and Tajay Spears, who's going to vie for their starting running back role now that Derrick Henry's in Baltimore.
I mean, the Lions are the big winner year one. I mean, let's see how our running back ages. And Laporte is great. He's a lot of people's tight end one this year. But again, like I am looking at premium positions, and outside of Will Levis becoming a franchise quarterback for the Titans, the Cardinals got the most premium position players. They got a pass rusher. They got a true defensive lineman, 5 technique, 3 technique, whatever, multiple corners, and a cornerstone tackle prospect that was OT1 in last year's draft. Like that, this is the foundation of most teams' team. Who's your number one tackle? What's your rotational cornerback depth? You have a couple defensive linemen that scare teams. Like right now, who are the 2 defensive linemen with the highest ceiling on the Arizona Cardinals? Darius Robinson, B.J. Ojulari. They came from that trade.
Yeah.
Who's your best offensive lineman with the highest ceiling? Paris Johnson Jr. Just say it out loud. Like we can wait for the trade to take effect, and we can fast forward a couple years. On the surface level, the Cardinals won the trade. Like, I'm happy for Houston. They made the postseason last year. Will Anderson Jr. may become a perennial Pro Bowler. But for what the Cardinals were building, they would do that trade unequivocally 10 times out of 10 times. Where we can put to bed this pick 27 bust, because we were feeling it during the season, watching Houston and CJ rip our hearts out every Sunday with our friends at BetMGM.
Yeah.
It felt like every time Bo and I and Damon and Britton were at the sportsbook, it was like, how can the Houston Texans come back and break our hearts this week? It really doesn't matter, because I believe Darius Robinson, the player they got, don't worry about the pick, the player they got is going to be a 10-year pro for this team, going to get a second contract without even having played a game. Now, if they had taken some player that I didn't love, right, if they had gone not a premium position, then I wouldn't feel as good about it. But
right.
The pick is secondary to the player. And we saw what happened in this draft this year. Offensive players were drafted for the first, 14, 15 picks.
Yeah.
All the premium defenders got pushed down. That benefited the Cardinals enough to be able to grab the player that they coveted at 27. That's a good situation. Even though we were supposed to have the Bears reality, and it was, Caleb and Rome Odunze, it was going to be Marvin and I don't know who, maybe like, Joe Alt or something like that. The Cardinals still made out very well.
Yeah, they did. And that's because of the organizational philosophy is when you're sitting there down the draft board at 27 and you're trying to decipher through who's available. And even with the offensive run early, it was still pretty slim pickings as far as defenders go, at least first round caliber defenders. And with Monti Ossenfort leaning on trenches players and premium positions, I don't think you can really go wrong with that philosophy, right? Like, because they trade out of 33 to get even more draft capital. Because when you look at it, that's entered into the equation. Like this long form equation that they've got, it's more than Monti Ossenfort trades out of 3 for 12, right? Yeah. He trades out of 3 for 12, for 34, a future third, the pick swap, and then he does his makes his way up the draft board from 12 to 6. Gives up the second to the Lions, and sure, that kind of hurts because of the player it turned out to be. But the Cardinals weren't going to be taking that position, right? No. At that stage in their rebuild, and then taking 33 and then flipping that for a future third, like they did, and then leaning into pass rusher at 41. Nickel slot corner, a position that Jonathan Gannon covets, and Garrett Williams, and then also adding depth in this past draft, as you mentioned, with Elijah Wilkins with the final of your top 100 picks. It's just it ups your batting average. Is it as fun as hitting homers? Right? Probably not. But is it Tony Gwynn hitting it through the 5-hole and hitting over 300 for a career? That's probably what Monti Ossenfort's doing.
Well, and I also challenge people. They traded down to 12, right? What if they had stuck at 12? What kind of reality would that look like? The 2 tackles that because Paris was going to go to the Vegas Raiders at 7. We feel pretty confident about that. Or even the Atlanta Falcons at 8, who ended up taking Bijan. Think about the players that were available at 12 and beyond. The Cardinals were not taking Jahmyr Gibbs at 12. Okay, what about the Packers? Lucas Van Ness, he's an okay player so far.
Yeah.
Broderick Jones for the Steelers, not great. How about Will McDonald for the New York Jets? Okay. Emmanuel Forbes for the Commanders. Christian Gonzalez missed most of the last year for the Patriots. Jack Campbell, Cansey, the defensive tackle, the Buccaneers took it. It's not until Jackson Smith and Jigba for the Seattle Seahawks at 20, which the Cardinals were not playing in that sandbox at the time, that where it was like, oh man, that's a good player that fell. And you hate that Seattle ended up getting him. But like it shows you, like, they saw a drop off, as did many. When Paris falls off the board, there goes your tackle depth. If they felt Paris Johnson Jr. was worthy of a top 5 pick beforehand, they were fortunate. Seattle, they tried to trade up with Seattle. If you watch that flight plan, Ossenfort's trying to come up to 5 to take Paris. We had intel before that draft. They were prepared to take Paris 3rd overall over Will Anderson Jr. because they believe that at the end of the day, it's more important to protect your quarterback with Kyler Murray coming off an ACL, even than it is to get after the quarterback. And we've seen that, right? They haven't added too many premium pass rushers yet, but they've sure as hell added a ton of offensive linemen. So it was unequivocally, I remember sitting on set with you and Saul Bookman at 4 Peaks, and they had traded up, and I'm like, oh no, they gave up, whatever it was, pick 33, 34. That stings. But then, no. What stings is the reality of not having Paris on your team.
Right.
And having to pick non-premium players at 12. So
it
just shows you part of this package was making the risk of going down and coming back up.
Yeah. I mean, there was really it was all house cleaning before that. It was all house cleaning. It was unpopular decisions to let Zach Allen, Byron Murphy, who doesn't break the bank for the Vikings, like the only serviceable corner at the time, letting these guys walk while you're kind of getting your books in order as far as the cap goes, and starting to get everybody out, like, who is not bought in, isn't going to buy into this culture. But there was no assets. Like, we thought D-Hop was an asset. Turns out his market crashed. Like, it crashed even before things got started. So it wasn't a true asset. They ended up having to cut bait right before June 1st. And the only asset, true one, that Monti Ossenfort had was 3rd overall, and boy, did he maximize it. I mean, as much as you possibly can. And like Will Anderson Jr. winning Defensive Rookie of the Year, that's all well and good. I think we all agreed before he was selected, he's going to be a very good defensive player in this league. Is he going to be top 10? I don't know. That remains to be seen. Like, is he going to, I don't know if his ceiling is even top 5. I think he's going to be really damn good. He's not even the best pass rusher on his team right now. Like, Daniil Hunter owns that designation. That's the caliber player you stick and pick. That's Marv. He wasn't last year's version of Marv.
No, not even close.
Right. So you missed out on a good player, and like, to get 2 defensive front 7 players from the package after it's all said and done is really good. But also, it's, to your point, like Paris Johnson Jr., a guy that projects to be a franchise tackle, whether it's right or left, and to really help solidify and protect your number 1 asset in Kyler Murray at a very affordable price for 5 years is very important.
We're all going nuts, and rightfully so, over this Marvin pick and his jersey announcement yesterday. It's just a special time for Cardinal fans. We're going to look back. I'm going to predict right now, half decade, the Paris Johnson Jr. pick is going to be one of the best picks in franchise history, given the circumstances, given the fact that you're trying to reboot this franchise, that Kime was so dismal, egregious in the first round, especially batting about 100. It's like K1 and DJ Humphries, and that's about it, right? For Ossenfort to come out and really put it all out there, hey, we need more assets, but I want this player. And then you see not only the impact Paris has on the field. I don't think he missed a snap last year. Looked like a seasoned vet by December, January, a stalwart. And then the leadership role he's taken off the field. And the leadership role you see behind the scenes now. We've had an opportunity to connect with Paris a couple different times off air. A tremendous human being. Paris Johnson Jr. represents everything that the Cardinals want to be now in 2023, 2024, and beyond. You cannot put a price on that for a franchise where they were. And for those who followed this podcast, where they were as low as you can be as a franchise. Like Carolina, the laughing stock of the league, like Cardinals didn't have the lack of assets, but they had the reputation that Carolina had this time last year. Having to pick yourself up, you have to do it with a player the caliber of Paris Johnson Jr. And to me, it speaks to Ossenfort and the fact that he identified him. And when you want to go 1-for-1 with your first pick to start off like a new, basically revolution for your franchise, you can't think of a better player to do it with. It's not the flashiest pick. Some Cardinal fans didn't love it. It's going to go down as one of the best picks, health permitting, of the last half decade plus for this team.
Yeah, in what wasn't, a universally highly regarded tackle class. And like, that's another part of this is Monti's ability to take the pulse of the board and realize, I don't want a short-armed tackle that's probably going to have to kick inside as who we have to kind of settle for as a building block. And I don't think he would have gone with Skoronski. Probably would have gone with the kid who's in Chicago, right? Who am I thinking of out of Tennessee? Darnell Wright. Or the kid out of Georgia over maybe a Skoronski. So
Broderick Jones, who was not even close to Paris.
Right.
Now, you look at Paris, by the way, they were asking like Kendrick versus Drake. Cardinals did something on their social media. Paris had his shirt off. You talk about one of the leanest looking 330-pound men in existence, walking around at 6'6". And we get to talk to Brian Hartline a little bit in the show, and just the standard. The Cardinals should just take Ohio State players moving forward. Like, they're just way better off doing that than otherwise, as this franchise just was so inept in the draft.
They're loaded with wide receivers still. I think I saw them ranked as the top wide receiver room in college athletics right now. They've got great DBs. They've always got ass kickers up front. I know they're paying a premium, reports of like $30+ million in NIL deals.
Get what you pay for.
Right. Exactly. And you're going to get some more insight on what kind of makes things work there in Columbus. But that's not that philosophy is way better than, hey, I'm going to take some swings on a guy from Murray State. I'm going to go look to, the FCS ranks to.
Oh, what position did you play in college? How about a different one at the highest level that you've never played before? What about that?
It's egregious that, and this is complete fact, and I've said it on social media, that during Kime's tenure, he took more players from Murray State and UMass than he did Ohio State. Fireable offense.
It is. There. It's 100%. Like, I can't even stomach it. It was there, presented to them time after time after time again, just looking them in the face. And they just, at the end of the day, just tried to outthink the room. And one of Kime's players in the chat right now, not really, but a question pertaining to one of them, the ghost of Pat Tilley, asking about Paris, $5. It was a holdover and has ingratiated himself well. Ghost of Pat Tilley asking, $5 super chat, what week is the expiration date on Zaven Collins' opportunity, Bo, as a starter?
Just the way they rotate pass rushers, I don't know if there's an expiration date. I think that there's a belief in Zaven Collins that's, I think, tough for the coaching staff to translate to the fan base. Like, they love his ability to do so many things. Nick Rollis was talking about Zaven. This was just like right after Monti Ossenfort confirmed that they're not going to pick up his 5th-year option. And by the way, the time has come and gone. Like, it's over. It's past as far as the 5th-year option. But Zaven Collins, like, they like his cover ability. They like the buy-in. They like that he's willing to do anything he's asked to play on the defensive side of the football. And I think that that's going to continue as long as he's wearing a Cardinals uniform, to give him chances to get out there and get snaps. And it's just that's how they like to rotate guys in. And I think he'll always be a part of that.
The first 7 games last year, he had his 3.5 sacks and was active around the football. And it was like, hey, this looks pretty good. They had a really good defensive effort. The defense did against Seattle. Remember, they lost 20-10. The rest of the year, though, he was shut out. Didn't have a sack. Now, that was in vogue for the rest of the Cardinal defense. But I'll go on the opposite side of Bo. Like, I do think there is a timeline where, like, he's never not going to play if he's healthy. But, like, could we see a rookie? Could we see somebody else in there? Like, if they sign Yannick Ngakoue tomorrow, like, yeah, sure, they'll give Zaven the benefit of the doubt to start camp, but like, who's to say that a rookie or a veteran doesn't come in and take snaps away from him? Like Ojulari is the big one where it has to work. It was a top 50 pick. It was their pick, as we just outlined, part of the Paris trade down package. That's the one that anything you get from Zaven, respectfully to Zaven, you're playing with house money. You're asking a guy from the prior regime who has some tools to change position. You decline his fifth-year option. Like Zaven wants to start. I don't even know if it's imperative for him to start. Can he just produce? Can he produce numbers that warrant him being around? Warrant him staying in the NFL as a pass rusher?
Yeah, I disagree with Ozzy saying that Zaven's horrendous. I mean, I know that you're wanting more production from anybody that's playing in that pass rush role, but like with the lack of production that they had up front on the defensive line, the player, it's tough to get any open, pass rush lanes for anybody. And that was apparent to every team that they faced down the stretch of the season last year. And like the few tricks that Zaven had kind of developed in his very young pass rush career, the league adjusted. And now it's time for him to make a big boy step this season. But like grading on a curve for somebody playing the position for the first time in his career, I think that the Cardinals will tell you that they were encouraged by it. And
he was okay.
He was fine. I mean, so do you want more production from that position? Absolutely. When we talked to Jonathan Gannon, and you would ask them, would you rather somebody emerge and kind of be the stud pass rusher, or would you like to be a collection of guys? He was very political in where he said you'd like both, right? But they do want somebody to emerge and be their primary ass kickers off the edge.
Well, look at Hassan Reddick in his last year in Philadelphia. Yeah. I mean, like of course they want that. Illa Dre, this is a good point. $4.99. Also, none of those other teams got best generational talent. MHJ go Cardinals. So in relation to the trade package, and while Marvin was not involved in that, the Cardinals would not give up a 2024 one. Like it's cliche to say, everything happened last year that fell into place for them to be able to draft Marv this year, right? And you want to be able to win as many games as possible, but at the same time, if they had beaten the Washington Commanders in week 1, if they had gone about, holding the lead against the New York Giants in week 2, would they then have an opportunity to draft Marvin Harrison Jr.? The answer is no. Would they have been able to draft Malik Neighbors or Joe Alt? The answer is no. So, we were sitting there, hey, sign some players. Hey, why are you cutting DeAndre Hopkins?
Right.
They were able, and this is commendable, and nobody will give them credit for this except for this show. They were able to toe a line where they were competitive. They were not winning. They brought their quarterback back. They saw enough from their quarterback to run it back with said quarterback, and they were still in position to get the best non-quarterback, the best overall player in this draft. Think about that for a second. How many things had to go right for a franchise where so much has gone wrong, where it's just like that played out exactly how we wanted it to?
Right. But also there's the point of, hey, we are going to field what we, give it our best shot while not giving away snaps to not pricey veterans, but guys that you knew who they were at the NFL level instead of playing younger guys. And obviously the team suffered to where they didn't win as many games as they potentially could have, right? Like they were in a position to where they were competitive, and that was a testament to the coaching staff.
Yeah.
But their hands were tied to an extent, but there was never truly like these egregious remember when they beat tanking, I think, accusations the entire season.
Yeah.
There wasn't like, you got stupid takes from, PFT saying that, like Pro Football Talk, Mike Florio saying that, this is one of the most egregious tank jobs of all time, where, he's saying that after they trade Isaiah Simmons for a 7th round pick, where Isaiah Simmons didn't have a role on this team, or they traded for Joshua Dobbs and he's going to start at quarterback, and he was actually their best option.
Anybody who watched training camp, and Bo was there every day, and I would come sometimes, and I would stand there with my co-host, and Colt McCoy could not throw the football. His arm, he had a dead arm. If the Cardinals wanted to tank, they would have just rolled out Colt McCoy. You would have seen it every Sunday. Clayton Tune was not ready to play. Yeah, I mean, it's laughably bad. That's why you just have to trust this show at the end of the day. We're not always going to be right, but man, we're gonna keep it real, man. They navigated some severe landmines, and you talk about being in a different place night and day from last year. Soak it in, because I do. We're on the precipice now of I think a pretty special run of sustained success for the Arizona Cardinals, and that could include a certain second round cornerback I want to touch on. But first, I also want to mention right now, I've got a trip planned at the end of the month. My wife and I are vacationing, and I wanted some new sunglasses, and I saw that we were talking to Shady Rays, and I saw that there's a certain bonus code that you can use right now with Shady. First of all, I have Shady Rays over anything. I've got a black pair I've been rocking. I drop it. My kids step on it. It gets scratched up, but yet it looks immaculate, right? They're fantastic. So I'm like, I have to get more Shady Rays ASAP. And then I wanted to get my wife a pair. 2 premium pairs of Shady Ray sunglasses arrived just a couple days later. 2 pairs under $70. How about that right now with the bonus code? Buy 2, you get 50% off with the bonus code PHNX. PHNX 35% off. Still great. With Shady Rays. It is the only sunglasses I have worn. I had a certain brand name that a lot of people think is superior. It is not superior. The clarity, I can swim with these on, I can run with these on, and they're fantastic to the point where what's that?
You don't run, that's for sure.
Okay, jerk. I do run in my Shady Rays.
Johnny's not running, so that's the only thing that's fiction in this.
Come on, I do a light jog. I don't want to get shin splints, but I do a light jog. But again, if for whatever reason you go to shadyrays.com, you use the bonus code PHNX, you order your Shady Rays, you wear them, and you don't love them, you can return them. Try it risk-free 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. But I'm going to tell you right now, go to shadyrays.com. The selection is immaculate. The deals are fantastic. They're already cheap enough. Then you get more money off with the bonus code PHNX. Check out right now. Try it for yourself. Why folks rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. That's a review you can count on. It's the only pair of sunglasses this PHNX lowly host wears. Shady Rays. Get them now.
Shady Rays, the perfect look, style while you're manning the grill this season, right? The only way you look cooler with Shady Rays and your grill is if you got some butcher box meat on the flames there. And I'm excited about the steaks that I got from. I also got some ground beef for some burgers, some nice chicken breasts, got some great seafood. Can't wait to crack into that. You need to get in on this because the convenience, it's unmatched. You got that peace of mind, that high quality meat, seafood that you can trust. Sometimes it's not as trustworthy as you like, especially when you're shopping at some of these grocery stores around here. 100% grass-fed beef, free-range organic chicken, pork raised, crate-free, and wild-caught seafood, humanely raised, no antibiotics, no added hormones, and it's delivered faux-free right to your doorstep. How about curated, customized box plants? You want all beef, you want all seafood, you want a mix of both, you want to mix in some pork, maybe some poultry. Do whatever you want to do. Treat yourself to some Butcher Box. Use the code butcherbox.com/PHNX. You'll get free meat plus $20 off your first box. Join today. Use it in the link, butcherbox.com/PHNX, using the code PHNX to save even more at Butcher Box.
Goes to Pat Tilley. Johnny needs protein and vitamin D. Is this enough protein for you? Goes to Pat Tilley. I do need to go outside more. I'm always on the grind. I got a couple of super chats I want to get to back to back from our friend of the program, Topic 64. Back to back $4.99. Thank you so much, Topic 64. I don't think that we'll never go through another 7-game stretch without a sack with what we have now up front. I agree with that. Again, that was just a byproduct of the lack of depth on an already kind of dismal defensive tackle group. And now they got some bodies in there. They may not have, Bo, your quintessential, alpha 10 sack plus guy, but it's going to be spread out. 5 sacks here, 7 sacks here. And it's going to add up to, I think, a group that a lot of people are sleeping on.
You got somebody like Darius Robinson, who's the key to this, right? I mean, if Darius Robinson pops, your defensive line is immediately upgraded. Like if he could right now, I view him as a really rock solid piece, right? He's right on par with the rotational guys that they have in Justin Jones and Bilal Nichols, who are solid NFL defensive linemen. Yeah, right? Both of them got some nice lucrative deals this offseason. Darius Robinson can be one of those guys that pops, and the Arizona Cardinals, draft, develop, extend. That's going to be the new philosophy. And it's hopefully he never even gets the opportunity to go cash in free agency. He just cashes in right here in the desert. But he's got the ability, the versatility, and plays with the violence that they want, to where he can probably rack up some pretty gaudy numbers playing on the interior of the defensive line. So it's a huge upgrade. Completely agree. And the stretch, like, I don't think I've ever seen that before last year.
It was rough. So much so, Jonathan Gannon onside with the lead against Philadelphia with under 3 minutes left, just because he was like, I have no choice. Topic 64, back at it. I don't think with what we have now, I don't think any team can just throw bombs on us without feeling like they better second guess that notion. Well, part of, I think, the revamped defense is going to include a revamped secondary. Topic 64, specifically at the cornerback room. Yes, the pass rush is going to be better, but how about the coverage time? A lot of that, in my opinion, is going to come from number 16 now, Max Melton out of Rutgers. Speaking of Max Melton, ESPN had an article kind of under the radar storylines for the draft. Jeremy Fowler had some insights specifically on Max Melton that I think is very interesting. Why did the Cardinals value Max Melton over the likes of Cooper DeJean and Kool-Aid McKinstry? Everybody was calling for the latter, right? But Cardinals, number one, they were prepared to take Max Melton with their initial second-round pick before trading down. Here's the quote from Jeremy Fowler. The Cardinals valued Max Melton's team-first approach, the intangibles that don't show up on standard draft profile. He stayed at Rutgers. This is fantastic. Despite NIL opportunities elsewhere, betting big on Greg Schiano's ability to shepherd defensive backs in the NFL, like the McCourty twins, Devin and Jason McCourty, Logan Ryan, among others. He'll be an X factor for them. I mean, like, in today's college landscape, we were just talking about Ohio State spending some NIL money, and you do you, Ohio State. For Max Melton to say, I'm a team guy. I want to see this through. I trust my head coach, who is a defensive back, defensive savant, regardless of what you think about Schiano as a person. It shows you a lot about his character. Like, hey, I know the team's not going to be very good. I'm going to be out on an island out here, and I'm just going to go out and compete. And for him to have the kind of season he has, I couldn't tell you if there was one other drafted or signed as an undrafted free agent Rutgers player. I mean, kudos to Max Melton. You can see why Gannon and Ossenfort were infatuated with this kid.
Yeah, and true knowers of ball are going to see it show up on tape. And thank God the Cardinals have a bunch of those guys now in the facility, starting at the top with Monti Ossenfort, and then their head coach, too, who has a scouting background, and Jonathan Gannon is a kingmaker at the position as well. I saw this quote from our guy Baldy as well. He was on the NFL Network. He kind of said the same thing to us when he joined us last week, and he was talking about Max Melton. He said he was dependable, but then he kind of deep dived. He said, I mean, he just loves to compete. Honestly, when I watch him, he reminds me of a very young Darius Slay. They are almost identical in their measurements. He said, Max is not tall, but he's every bit as fast. I mean, the measurables are very, very consistent with when I watched Darius as a young player in Detroit. I remember how aggressive he wasn't. The tackler Max is, but would challenge any receiver. He was scrimmaging against Pittsburgh. He wanted Antonio Brown every play. So that's kind of what reminds me of Max. He wants their number one receiver inside, outside, wherever they are. And I think that's what Arizona was getting. And I think that's what they liked about him. Gets you fired up. That's why I won't accept any Max Melton slander.
No, it became immediately apparent after they took him and you read up on him for 5 minutes. It's like, oh yeah, this is to the T what they want. And he has the physical attributes. Like, we love the Cooper DeJean hype and the value that it would have brought in the second round. But then you do a little bit more digging, and it's just like, can this guy play outside corner? The Eagles aren't going to play him at outside corner. They're going to play him at what, Bo? Tyrann Mathieu, nickel safety hybrid.
Devontae Maddox.
Guess what the Cardinals don't need? That. Yeah. Guess what they do need? An outside corner to play CB1. Like, they just call a spade. Like, they need an outside corner. Now, is he ever going to develop into a Pro Bowler? I hope so. But what if he's just a really high-end number 2 corner? What if he's just a really high-end player that gets a second contract? What if he's what Byron Murphy Jr. was supposed to be? It's easy to fall in love with some of the higher profile guys. And it was tough because those guys fell to the second round. They were available. Johnny Newton and Cooper DeJean and Kool-Aid McKinstry, obviously. But, I mean, like, then you see that, and then you know that Marvin Harrison Jr., his name carries some weight, talking about what a dog he was in that game against Rutgers. I mean, it's just, okay, I'm completely sold. Like, the Tip Raymond thing, it is what it is, right? This kid plays a premium position. Handpick, we assume, by Jonathan Gannon. And then everything after the draft is like, yeah, this kid probably was underdrafted. Probably at this point, like, are we going to look back and have a redraft? Is he going to be should he have been a top 32 pick, top 35 pick? Maybe.
Well, it's like, it's organizations that get carried away by the names, right? The guys who come, relative to the NFL draft and draft season, brand names. And Cooper DeJean and Kool-Aid McKinstry were right in front of him.
Yeah.
And the Arizona Cardinals were like, God, I hope nobody else knows about Max Melton. And they were able to even get another top 100 pick out of it, right? They added that 79th overall pick that they ended up trading down from anyway. But and then they get their guy still. I mean, that's the brilliance of Monti Ossenfort. Now, Melton needs the ball out, but I look at Max Melton, and I look at a guy as far as measurables. He's got better measurables than Keitrell Clark, but he's got the same sort of mentality, right? I hear Nick Rawlis say that Keitrell Clark, as he sees 3 defensive secondary players drafted this year, he has an assassin's mentality. He's focused as far as what he needs to do in order to secure a role. But you got him a little bit smaller than Melton. Melton's got what you want, right? He's got the good size. He got the good length. He's got the sub 4.40. He's got it way better between the ears than the guy who was playing outside corner for him last year for way too many games, and Marco Wilson. Like, I really think I really love this pick for the Arizona Cardinals in this draft.
Well, I like Garrett Williams a lot, but Garrett Williams last year, we all kind of viewed him as a slot corner, not to diminish slot corner, and he was hurt. And you were like, oh man, is he going to play this year? He's going to have a big hurdle. Max Melton is going to be on the field competing Friday this week. Like, you're going to see camp highlights, footage highlights from Tempe. Guess who's going to be going against Max Melton? Marvin Harrison Jr. That's going to be live and in living color in Arizona on Friday. So you're telling me right now, like, how much better is Max Melton going to be? Fast forward from this Friday to September this fall, significantly better. He's going to be going up against Marvin Harrison Jr. every single practice, presumably. Those guys are going to be right. They know each other. They have a relationship, right? Big 10 alphas. Like, that gets me fired up because now you have a nucleus of guys that played together at the collegiate level, like throwing Paris Johnson Jr., mold guys, glue guys, were like, Max Melton already feels comfortable here because there are people he knows, right? And he's somebody that obviously had leadership aspirations and qualities for sticking around Rutgers. That's gonna carry a lot of weight. So sometimes it's hard for players to come here, depending on who drafted him, the situation, the coaches in and out, multiple defensive coordinators. It's like this stability piece from a player coaching standpoint for a guy like Max Melton, and knowing what Greg Giano thought of him is going to go leaps and bounds. Like, you talk about a guy that has upward momentum to be great for this franchise. Throw him in that group. Having not seen him play one NFL snap, he has all the physical tools to achieve that level, in my opinion.
4 catches, 25 yards, Marvin Harrison Jr. against Max Melton. And MHJ came out, day 2 of the draft and commended it and said, basically, he gave him his stamp of approval. He knows how Melton competes. They went up against each other plenty of times. Now, the rest of the Rutgers squad couldn't get it done against Ohio State. They were overmatched.
That's asking a lot.
Right.
When I'm out there playing off-ball linebacker for Rutgers. You miss me. I had to commute to Rutgers this year to play off-ball linebacker.
Just getting absorbed by blockers. Them just doing whatever they wanted. Trayvon Henderson.
I had the T-visor on. That's why you didn't know it was me. And I had the, what do you call it? The neck collar, 90s style. Number 50 out there. He's 5'6", but he's got a lot of swag. 90s player.
Motor. He's a high motor guy. But
I'm a two-down run-stuffing linebacker. I had to sub out on passing downs. I couldn't move laterally.
Drop a like on this video as we're having a blast here on a Wednesday afternoon. Johnny, myself, Damon, Dawg, hanging out with you. Yeah, there you go. Leave a like. We are almost a day away from that happening. From MHJ hitting the field, what everybody signed up, couldn't wait to see. Tua's brother, Talia, just slinging it downfield, and MHJ going mano-a-mano against Max Melton.
You love to see that. How about some more super chats? We got Brian Hartline right around the corner. Be sure to tap in for that. You talk about a little bit of Marvin insight. You're not going to get anywhere else. Alex, $4.99. Felt like Kool-Aid got a little bit more hype just because of his name. Didn't feel like it. That That's what happened. Like, come on now, Alex, we can keep it real here. Like preseason, everybody's like top 10 pick. He's not even the best corner on his own team. Like, and that Bama defense was good, but man, as time went on, it's like Terrion Arnold was the better player. And I not to knock Kool-Aid. Where'd he end up going, by the way? I can't even remember.
New Orleans, right?
Yeah. So we'll see. They have a history of developing good defensive backs, but yeah, like that was never a fit ever that I saw the Cardinals taking. Like when we would have our mocks and everybody would, hey, we gotta get Kool-Aid at 27. I'm like, it just doesn't feel like a Gannon guy. And guess what? They passed on him like 3 times to take Max Melton. Yeah. So it just wasn't a fit.
Did you see the Daffy Duck operation? That's the Las Vegas Raiders, I guess, admit that, or I guess Terrion Arnold said that he heard from the Raiders after the draft. And they said that they flipped a coin whether to draft Terrion Arnold or Brock Bowers.
Wow, really good.
They called him to tell him that.
That's Antonio Pierce for you. Good stuff, guys.
Antonio Pierce and Tom Telesco, former Chargers GM, flipping a coin in the war room. What should we do? Should we take the tight end while we already have one, or the corner from Bama?
You talk about make you feel good.
That's to get that phone call. Hey, Tom, never call this number again.
Or just as a Raiders fan. Like, that's got to make you feel good that their evaluation process is so flimsy that they're down to flipping a coin for their first round pick.
Terrion Arnold's got, I know he missed out on some money going like 10, 12 picks later, but he's got to be thinking his lucky stars. He landed in Detroit over what's going on with the Vegas Raiders. Richard, $4.99, friend of the program. I like Max, and his Darth Vader helmet tells me enough about his personality. Agreed. If somebody likes Star Wars, specifically the original trilogy, Richard, I can look past a lot and just say, you know what, that's a good human being. I like that cut of that person's jib. I know I'd let that person watch my kids, just a bunch of stuff. I feel good. I feel good about their mental makeup if they rep the original trilogy of Star Wars.
I'm more of a Phantom Menace guy myself. But
of course you are.
Bo's favorite character is Jar Jar.
Love him. He only got one go, didn't he?
He got bullied off that first movie. It's actually pretty sad what happened.
He's in the other ones as a senator once he becomes senator of
but I mean his screen time, they got him out real quick.
Did he really?
They minimized him a lot.
Yeah, because the fans were furious with George. Because
how did he become how did he get office somewhere?
He's the people's person of Neville.
Well, how did he get office? Because Natalie Portman's character was in charge, and she got him promoted. It's all about who you know.
Best friends with the owner's son.
I mean,
early on,
it's helpful to have connections in politics for sure.
Yeah,
and he knew Padme well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Richard, for that super chat.
We're going to teach Bo all the Star Wars lore.
We might just do this summer when there's nothing going on. We might have to do a watch along with Bo and then just educate him. Topic 64 is back, $4.99. People were laughing about Tip, but I heard that he was the only tight end in the draft that could push the O-line sled. No other tight end could do it. That's 100% true. We've seen the video. People have talked about it. It all comes down to, do you value a tight end that can do that with a top 100 pick? They do. That's the answer is the question. Do I? It's not what I would do, but it's not to say that they're wrong. So I'm hoping that it's going to pan out to their benefit, Bo.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see what they value. And I kind of got a little inkling which direction they would go when they're looking at tight end 2.
Yeah.
But Higgins, I think, is way ahead of where Tip is as far as route running and being able to play the receiving role of a tight end. And I think Tip is already coming in way ahead of a converted wide receiver in Higgins in the blocking portion of playing the tight end position. So we'll see. And it seems like with Trey McBride emerging as the offensive threat that he is, that they probably will lean more on Tip and kind of concede a little bit of the playmaking from that position because they're going to get it probably from McBride anyway.
We got Brian Hartline right around the corner, but first I want to tell you about our friends who may be around the corner from you at Desert Financial Credit Union, the official credit union of the Arizona Cardinals, PHNX Sports, and the Venerable household. That's because for more than 84 years, Desert Financial has been Arizona's largest, most trusted local credit union, dedicating to creating exceptional experiences by giving back to the community and providing financial solutions that make lives better. Check them out, desertfinancial.com. Pick up the exclusive Arizona Cardinal Visa debit card. It goes hard. I've got mine. Everybody commends it because they're like, hey, where do I get that? All you got to do, go to desertfinancial.com/cardinalsbow to get started. Open up a free checking account online today. Takes a matter of minutes. Your debit card's in the mail just after the fact. And I've had a lot of people ask me like, yeah, I have a checking account already. Sure, I can move over, but what else do they have to offer? They've got savings accounts. They've got mortgages. Check out their mortgage rates, loans, credit card, investment options, and more. It's your one-stop solution to improve your financial acumen today. One of my favorite features, there's locations everywhere in the East Valley, the greater Phoenix area, so I can get my money when I need it. I never have cash now, but when I do, I can always get it from Desert Financial Credit Union. Again, check them out, desertfinancial.com/Cardinals to get started.
The East Valley. What about us who live centrally or on the west side, Johnny? Let's not forget about us.
I do.
Once you get that checking, that savings account, let's start to fill it up with our friends over at BetMGM. That first bet offer $1,500. Is that what we're talking about here, Johnny?
Oh yeah, do it up.
Absolutely. Hitting the Grand Slam jackpot. That's what's going on with BetMGM. Jackpot promotions going on every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday during the Major League Baseball season. It's a weekly bet and bet promotion that you get $10 or more wager on any player to hit a home run every weekend. That's right, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If the player hits a grand slam on that day, they can win $50,000 in daily prizes or share of the prize with every other winning bettor. For example, if Corbin Carroll hits a home run on the 31st of July against Houston, if it's a grand slam, along with 9 other customers, you each take home $5,000. That's how simple it is. Download the BetMGM Sportsbook app on iOS or Android. Visit betmgm.com. Johnny, you're a desktop type of guy. You like it on the desktop. I like it on the app. There's something for everybody with our favorite betting app or website. BetMGM. Use the bonus code PHNX. Place your first bet BetMGM Sportsbook wager through BetMGM Sportsbook mobile app for at least $10. You'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if the bet loses. Check out the show notes for full details. Now listen to Sweet Baby Shane talk about it and the disclaimer.
Bets expire in 7 days. One new customer offer only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus only. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only. Subject to eligibility requirements. Bonus bets are non-withdrawable. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. See BetMGM.com for terms. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, North Carolina, Ontario, or Puerto Rico.
Pumped to get this guy on here. PHNX Cardinals, of course, Bo Brock, Johnny Venerable hanging out with you. Now with former NFL wide receiver, co-offensive coordinator, receivers coach out at the Ohio State University, Brian Hartline. Brian, thanks so much for taking time to join us.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys reaching out, making this happen. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, we have been yearning for a first-round Ohio State receiver for some time, since Bo and I have done this show. And for whatever reason, where the Cardinals have been picking just hasn't worked out, right? So by hook or by crook this year, they have the 4th overall pick, and Bo and I feel like probably what you do, they got the best overall player in this draft. Let's cut to the chase here. Marvin Harrison Jr., Arizona Cardinals. What's he bringing year one as a rookie to this franchise?
Well, I think you got a guy that's already a pro. I mean, he's been a pro at Ohio State. He's challenged guys around him to be a pro as well. So he's not a guy that's going to call out anybody probably in the locker room or in the receiver room, but he'll give plenty of opportunities for the coach to use him as an example of how to operate, how to study, how to execute a practice, and he's a total pro.
We're fortunate enough to talk to another total pro in Paris Johnson Jr. Last year was his rookie year, and he couldn't help himself from talking about his guy, Marvin Harrison Jr., potentially coming in the desert. But he said there were things that Marvin even did that separated himself from an NFL factory like Columbus. What did you see with your own eyes that kind of separates Marv from the rest of the pack?
Well, I think you kind of hit on it, right? I mean, it was really the lifestyle he lived. Like, football was not what he did; it is who he is, right? So, I mean, from outside the allotted time that we get to work with these guys, always caught him watching film, always see him on the jugs machine. Like, and a lot of people say that, and I meant to say this, like, I'm saying like he's obsessed, and I think Kobe would talk about it like, if you're not really obsessed, like, are you really to that level? And Marv has been. He's probably the guy that's done it the most out of all the guys that have kind of come through this room over the last 3-4 years. And again, not minimizing the ones before, because frankly they did a great job too. But the level at which Marv has done it and the way he's lived is on a level on its own.
his legacy now, I think, to a lot of people, mirrors his dad's early career, Syracuse, and of course with Indianapolis. Like, what did you see from him, Coach, coming into a program with the namesake, right? The legacy that he had. His dad's, of course, an NFL Hall of Famer. Like, was he able to kind of play off of that in his own way? Certainly, he's got a bunch of pros ahead of him on the depth chart, but how do you handle that pressure, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably easier for him because he was, he lived in it, so I didn't have that pressure. I didn't think about that pressure, frankly. I think I just saw Marv as Marv. And, I expected him to be the best version of himself, not anything to do with his dad. So that was always the focus. There were probably some early signs early on that, there's a chance here this guy could be pretty darn special. At what point, you don't know. I think the biggest thing you guys probably feel, I know I always felt in the NFL, was, the great ones, it always comes down to consistency. It's not the ability to do, it's the frequency at which dictates your level of greatness. So he was chasing that. I think he understood how important the consistency level was, and he lived it day in and day out.
We saw the unbelievable tape that he put on display while playing for you guys in Columbus the last couple of years that got him to New York as a Heisman finalist, Biletnikoff winner, 4th overall selection in the draft. And we talked to Cardinals offensive coordinator Drew Petzing, and he's like, yeah, Marv's going to define his role over the next couple months. You know this. You lived it as an NFL wide receiver. But where do you envision Marvin really thriving at the next level as far as, we think X wide receiver, the route trees he's going to run? What do you believe is his best kind of path forward?
Well, I'd say that usually guys start slow. If they do start slow, it's probably because of the speed of the game, learning of the offense, making mistakes. You can't make mistakes. It's execution based. I expect Marvin to learn it and apply it pretty quickly. I think that he'll remove any kind of rookie feel around him. I think that he understands what it takes off the field in order to perform on the field. And that's usually the curveball rookies have to figure out on their own. So I expect him to simulate pretty quickly, for the Arizona offense. And I can't be shocked if that wasn't the case early in the mid training camp into the beginning of the season.
Let me ask you a follow-up question to that, because a lot was made. We were at the combine. Marv opted not to work out. He didn't participate in the pro day. He had made it public. Like, I'm getting ready for the NFL season, the rigors of a 17-game NFL season. What do you believe his mindset truly is? It's just like, hey, I want to prepare my body. I don't want to hit a rookie wall. Like, have you ever seen anything like that? And why do you think Marv and his team and his dad came up with that mindset this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a different way of thinking. And I can't say it's wrong. I mean, for him to go into the whole process, like, what did he really expect to get out of it? I mean, like you said on it, I firmly believe this. If the first overall team didn't need a quarterback so bad in their mind, I think he'd been the first overall pick. So, I think that in their minds, in his mind, I'm not really worried about running a 40. Just turn on the film. You can see I'm the fastest guy in the field. I'm not really worried about running routes. I did that the year before for the other combine for CJ Stroud. So, he didn't know what he was trying to get accomplished. So, but what he did know was he was getting ready for rookie minicamp, and he was getting ready for football this fall. And that just seemed like the best use of his time. And frankly, I don't think he's wrong. So it's just pretty it takes a lot of guts, to kind of take that approach. And to see the way it turned out, the way it has.
He certainly earned it, right? I mean, the 2.5 years of tape that he put forth was unmatched, and he probably would have been a top receiver last year if he'd come out of Ohio State. I don't mean this in any disrespect. What are the challenges of coaching a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr.? We see the skill set, we see the size, we see the speed. What's Drew Terrell and Drew Petzing, what's going to be their biggest challenge kind of putting this guy in action come this fall?
Well, I would say that, not tooting our horns at Ohio State or myself, but just he wants challenge to be the best. And so if you're not finding constant ways to challenge him to grow, to be better, to show your competence as a receiver coach, that's the biggest letdown. That's the biggest stress that you should feel, like letting him down, because he'll take anything you'll give him. So to me, him not becoming what he's fully capable of is me, and that it's not on him. He's putting forth the effort. If he didn't turn out or reach the goals he wanted to reach with the amount of work he put in, I would have put it on myself. So that's the stresses of it. I think understanding what he's capable of, and as a coach, your job is to maximize both the individual, but also the schematic advantages you have as a player. If you don't do that, that's on you, not usually the player.
So we've made it clear on our show, Coach, like the Cardinals in the past have been, for whatever reason, allergic from taking big-time players from established universities. And then they now go back-to-back with 2 Ohio State players. And this is the most the fan base has been fired up, collectively, Paris Johnson, now Marvin Harrison Jr. How do you guys, in a program on such a dominant level, consistently in the public eye, balance winning at the collegiate level and then also preparing these guys for the rigors of the NFL draft, the NFL career in general? Because, frankly, you go back and you look at the names, everybody, for the most part, who is expected to be a high pick is producing in some instances at a high level. Like, how do you balance that over the course of a 2 to 3 year career that has led to such an impressive hit rate for your program?
Yeah, I would say that we spend a lot of time on the makeup of the athlete and the kind of person they are. I think it's not just bringing in a certain athlete, it's also bringing in a family. So you got to make sure it works. And I think that the mental makeup, the makeup of Paris and Marvin, I think you'll find a consistency there. I think that, to me, athletically, a lot of the times, you're just checking boxes. He's big enough, fast enough. Can he be big enough? Can he be fast enough? But the mental makeup of the athlete allows you to unlock everything he has physically. And so if you can continue to kind of go down that path, and I'm not saying it's perfect, but to couple the mental makeup of the athlete with the physical abilities, you find, the ones that can play a long time and be very productive, and it all works. I think we've done a really good job of bringing those kind of athletes into the program, and they've maximized the program that we put forth for them. And then in turn, being on the biggest stage in college football with the most fans and the most watched team in college football, the transition to the NFL is probably a little less and more seamless than it is other places.
So you mentioned that big stage. My last question for you. I remember watching the Rose Bowl 2 years ago, and you guys had fallen behind Utah. And then this kid has 3 touchdowns in Marvin Harrison Jr., I think at like 80 yards. Was that the moment? Because you guys see him in practice. He had a modest year. He's working behind a couple pros in Jackson and a couple other guys who, by the way, had a fantastic game in and of themselves. But 3 touchdowns against Utah's defense to bring you guys back in the Rose Bowl. Was that the moment you knew, like, oh, okay, this has a chance to be a generational prospect?
Yeah, that's the key right there. We got a chance. I never assume, but I was like, okay, we got a chance here. Now let's see what this becomes. And so he was going into his second year with the opportunity at hand. I'm going to see this guy's going to maximize it. Everything tells me he's going to, but until we actually do it, there's nothing to really be said. So, but I mean, there were signs before that too. Now, I mean, there was times in practice. There was times where Chris and Garrett and Jackson were like, "Hey, Hart, you see that?" I'm like, "Of course I saw that." So there's a lot of conversations behind the scenes that really allows you to understand how his brain's working and how there's a chance for a special outcome if we continue to develop the right way.
Johnny, we're looking at an AFC guy. I mean, played for the Dolphins and the Browns, but I'm looking at his most career touchdowns, and it's against the Arizona Cardinals. Brian Hartline. Brian, what the heck's going on, man? How did you have some of your best performances against the Cards?
Yeah, Cards allowed me to break the Dolphins record for the most yards in a game. And I appreciate them for that. PP over there trying to cover one side. And then we switched, went back and forth. It was one of those games, but you guys pulled it out in the end. So there was always a sour taste in my mouth. You guys were 6-0 going to that game, the best pass defense in the league. So we came in motivated, but unfortunately, we did not pull out that game. So I remember it clearly. Spent plenty of times in the Fiesta Bowl too at Ohio State, playing in that stadium, and to watch that area grow since 2006, which was a rough game. But it's been pretty awesome to be fans of you guys from afar.
Absolutely. Coach Brian Hartline, you got a good offensive coordinator you're collaborating with there, and Chip Kelly. We watched a lot of him at Oregon, of course, most recently at UCLA. Excited for what's going on with the Buckeyes. Looks like you're on the recruiting trail as well. Is that what's going on?
I am. I'm enjoying that little Delta Lounge here and in Atlanta, but I'm getting ready to catch a flight to Dallas and keep this thing moving. We have a good stretch here, about 3 or 4 weeks before Memorial Day weekend. When we're on the road and just trying to go out and find those next guys we just talked about.
That's fantastic. All the success. You guys deserve it there in Columbus. You as well with the Ohio State program. Coach Brian Hartline, thank you so much for your time and the insight on the Arizona Cardinals' newest star player, Marvin Harrison Jr.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Great stuff from our guy, Brian Hartline, on the development of Marvin Harrison Jr. Bo at Ohio State. Just invaluable insight you're not going to find anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, that gets you going. If you were looking for something on your Wednesday afternoon to pump you about the Marvin Harrison Jr. era here for the Arizona Cardinals, Brian Hartline giving you some insight into his work ethic, what kind of separates him from the rest of the pack of that NFL factory in Ohio State. Pretty impressive stuff from an up-and-comer in the coaching ranks and a guy who helped mold Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, it's impressive, as is our event this coming Friday. It's Keeping It 100, Dobson Ranch, second annual, brought to you by our friends at ALLCITY. Big Drive Energy. Bo, the vibes last year were immaculate. Times that by 2 this year. Weather is supposed to be at a premium, of course, here in the Valley of the Sun. And I think we're at max capacity, if I'm not wrong.
Pretty damn close. Limited availability right now as far as trying to get in and on the links this Friday. And you mentioned it, I mean, as far as Dobson Ranch Golf Course, like they've only got better. Like the course looks even better than it did last year. It's going to be an unbelievable event going down on Friday. Check it out. Join us, PHNX Sports, Big Drive Energy, 7:30 shotgun start. Get in while you can. The Keeping It 100 Golf Classic here, the second annual. Cannot wait for this event. It's going to be an unbelievable Friday with that. Marvin Harrison Jr.'s debut on the practice field. It's going to be a great way to wrap up the week, Johnny.
Yeah, today's show is representative of, I call it BM, before Marv, right? Because even though he's not taken,
I want to workshop that one.
Yeah, I didn't think it through that great. But before he's on the field with the Arizona Cardinals Friday, he will be in the building tomorrow, Thursday. And hopefully we get some insight behind the scene footage from the team as it relates to Marv and the rest of the rookies that make their arrival ahead of rookie mini camp. And of course, we've got the schedule at least next week. It's the calm before the rookie storm. And then, off-season OTAs continue. Football slowly approaching back in full swing, Bo Brock.
Can't wait for it. We're going to have all the sights and sounds from the pressers tomorrow. Our guy, Tip Raymond. How about we're going to hear from Max Melton, other Arizona Cardinals rookies like Christian Jones. It's going to be a fun time to get to know these guys a little bit better. We'll have everything coming from PHNX_Cardinals on Twitter. Make sure you're following Johnny at Johnny Venerable and at Damon Dawg. Follow me at Bo Brock. It's been a banner show. It's going to be another one tomorrow, barring any breaking news at 4:30. Yeah, that's right. Drop the like the show. Subscribe if you haven't done so already to PHNX Sports. More great stuff in the works. Don't miss out on any of it. It's PHNX Cardinals on PHNX Sports. See you.
We all silly like the mayor.